You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello and welcome back into my Wheelhouse. Today is January 28th. We're rounding out the first month of the year. Congratulations to the New England Patriots on yet another Super Bowl berth. Sure to be exciting. That's coming up on this Sunday. See if we can take it to the Rams. Feeling confident and nervous at the same time.
So they're the most hated team of all time, you think?
They're definitely the most hated team currently.
Most hated, yeah.
Love
we had the
us-
Celtics.
We were
so,
talking about it before we started. Love us or hate us. Everybody watches the Patriots.
Yeah.
Everybody tunes in to watch
You have a
us.
prediction?
Duke's kinda
Win or
You got a
lose.
prediction for the game?
Oh,
Super Bowl
yeah.
prediction.
Well, I'll say the Patriots by one. Isn't that how they
Patriots by
always,
one. Okay.
Isn't that how they always win?
I'm saying Patriots by a field goal, 31-28.
Yeah, I was
High
gonna say.
score.
I was gonna say more than that. I'm going like 34, 31 maybe. I'm thinking it's pretty close.
Gonna be a
I
high
just want
scoring
number
game.
6 for Tom. I really do.
That would be great. We got a lot of stuff
Yeah,
to
we
go
do.
to. The
It's a
trade
busy, busy
deadline
time.
is heating up. We had a very exciting Celtics-Warriors matchup. All-star starters got announced, and some of the participants for the Saturday night. That All-Star weekend is coming up. Obviously, that All-Star weekend, along with the trade deadline, are moved up into comparison of previous years. So we got more information to get through earlier. So
A lot going on.
Away we go.
let's spin away.
Where will we start today?
All right,
Whoa.
yeah, so we start here, and we can start with the bombshell trade deadline. We've had some small things here and there, teams making their pieces that aren't that attractive available. Oh, the Atlanta Hawks are willing to part with Bazemore and Taurean Prince. That stuff has been muddling out here and there, and then we had a moderately large one with the Memphis Grizzlies, shockingly putting their two marquee players in Mike Conley and Marc Gasol on the
Good.
block.
Blow it up.
But
Blow 'em up.
to start it off, I want to begin with this morning around 6:30 a.m. Woj dropped the ultimate hammer that Anthony Davis and his agent Rich Paul have told the New Orleans Pelicans that they will not be re-signing
So you
with the
think
team.
she's going to call at 5:30
and that-
a.m. from the agent, or
Maybe, I don't know.
yesterday, or last night, or
And that they would be requesting
Awesome
a
news.
trade. So
Really.
obviously we all know, and it's been discussed at length, that the Boston Celtics cannot acquire him until July 1st because of the Rose rule around Kyrie's contract and the contract that Anthony Davis is also signed to. So that takes the Boston Celtics out of contention for this, 11-day time period before February 7th, which is the trade deadline this year.
Unless Kyrie's traded for him.
Unless we trade Kyrie for him.
Yeah, we know that.
From recent reports and from all the funneling from people all over Twitter and whatever it is today, it seems more likely than not that the Pelicans and Anthony Davis have no problem being patient and waiting until the offseason, which I agree with based off of what the teams that would be available to offer a package now and offer a package then. Not only would the Celtics entering into the factor allow the Celtics trade package of a poo-poo platter of whether it's a Tatum or Brown or picks or what have you, whatever it is, and then the repercussions falling off of that, maybe heightening other teams' offers as a battle between the two because the Celtics are there. But additionally, a lot of the attractive picks for retaining some young pieces in return, whether it's through the draft, those won't be hammered down in terms of the New Orleans Pelicans knowing what team has what pick where, especially in a draft like this, which we will talk about, where there's one clear, really, really bona fide player at the top of it in Zion, and the rest being a lot more murky. I think not having certainty when you're trading for a first-round pick, especially if you're trading Anthony Davis to that team, where he would be improving that team to maybe getting that team out of the area of a top 4 pick, I think that they would much more be likely to want to have a definite, we're trading you the number 1 overall pick and XYZ for Anthony Davis. So with all the information that you have so far and just based off of what you think, do you think that the Pelicans are going to make a move now? Obviously the Lakers are the team that would be making a swing unless there's a surprise team. Or do you think that they're probably going to wait and then we're going to have basically a bidding war that includes the Boston Celtics, maybe includes the New York Knicks, maybe includes the 76ers with Ben Simmons? Who knows what the offers could be.
Well, it's a really good play by Davis and his agent. So,
Yes.
so what he does,
Smart.
he gets out there now 10 days before the deadline and creates an offer from LA. So now I think Davis would be fine with going to LA. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think that'll bother him. So if that works out, that's a win for him. When it doesn't, when New Orleans says no and it carries over to the Celtics, that's real good for him too. So I think he's creating opportunities for himself here that are really smart, really wise how he's playing this.
It gives him the option too, if he does potentially want to play for the Celtics, or if the Celtics are on one of his list of suitors that he would want to play for, why not, release it now so that they don't trade their young assets now for somebody else?
True.
Now there's a lot of, different things in play.
I think that
whether it's now or later, at least that's another team that he's still possible.
I agree. It's still going to be up in the air, and I do think that if you had to lean towards whether it's going to be before the deadline or more likely to be in the offseason, right now, most analysts and experts that you listen to will say that right now it's leaning towards they're going to wait.
After.
They're going to wait,
Yeah.
and they think that they can get the same offers that they would get now from LA.
So
then.
with a
So why not wait?
Good point. But
Because LA probably doesn't want to
one,
wait.
Well, the one way that does change, and the one way where I think that it would bring an immediacy to it, is if he comes out with another report saying, this is my list. If he comes out with a list and maybe the Celtics aren't on the list. There was a report from Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports where Chris Haynes said there's growing concern that maybe the Celtics aren't on top of Anthony Davis' hypothetical list. And additionally, maybe that is because there's a thought process or a certain viewpoint that Kyrie Irving staying in Boston isn't as concrete as it was earlier in the year. The credibility or where those sources are coming from, we don't know. Haynes has been up and down with his responsibility to Boston before, but I don't disagree that he heard
Kyrie's
that.
26 years old and LeBron's 34, so it's does LA have enough? Would Ingram, Kuzma, Ball, and Hart be enough?
I think that they would probably have to do. If I was LA, I would try to keep Hart because he has the least value out of all three of those, and he's valuable to a team as a role player. So I would include all three of those guys in a first and see if that gets it done. There was reports as soon as the thing came out that the package would need to start with, as in terms of a basement like framework level, it would need to start with Kuzma, Ball, Zubac, and a first-round pick, and then we need to build from there. Obviously implying that Ingram would also probably need to be included. But additionally, if I was New Orleans, not only would I want the whole onslaught of their young players, draft picks, but I would also want to be able to send back some bad contracts, a Solomon Hill, an Etuan Moore, or what is it? I want the whole farm right now. If I'm making this move now where I'm jeopardizing missing out on a higher bidding war between, maybe it is the Lakers, maybe they do. Maybe he doesn't go now, maybe they do trade him to the Lakers later, but risking what could be a greater package in July or August or what have you, I think I would want the maximum, most perfect offer possible. And if that, I want to clear the cap sheet. I want as many young players as possible. I want as many draft picks
And
as
if I
possible.
was looking at that, I would be saying Jaylen Brown and Tatum, or Ingram and Ball.
Right.
Well,
so it's obvious, but
obvious. So why not wait? And then everybody's on the table.
that is another thing I think is very interesting in terms of what phone work Danny Ainge is going to be doing right now, because I'm under the impression that he probably will be giving them an offer before the trade deadline, just so that the Pelicans are aware of where Boston stands, and whether that offer is, hey, Del Demps, I can guarantee that our offer at minimum will be Jalen, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, and all 4 of the first-round picks, or something at minimum. And then he says, the only thing that would keep us from trading you, Jason Tatum, would be if he has an MVP performance in the playoffs. Or, he says something like that.
Yeah.
But then if he conditionally, if he said, but I'm not saying that Tatum wouldn't be off the table.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
I think what's interesting about what you just said there with those 2 offers, what a nice position New Orleans is in.
Yes.
When you look at the assets they can bring back for Anthony Davis, they are actually going to get good value for him.
As a suitor, I mean, no matter what avenue they go, unless
They can restock their team with
unless
this.
they make a boneheaded move, I think no matter what pathway they choose, I think they're going to end up being reloaded pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, they could grab Al Horford, Tatum, and Brown.
And it's
Rozier.
not even the Celtics, and it's not even the Lakers. I do think that I don't even know if the
think it
Lakers
is.
has the. I would say that those are the 2 most probable
Yeah.
teams to land the trade. But if you look outside of that, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm hearing rumors that
I'm hearing
the New
Knicks.
York Knicks are offering Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Knox, and the first-round pick. the thing about that, to go back to the original point, if they traded that deal, that would be more likely that that first-round pick would be pick like 9 instead of pick potentially Zion Williamson. But if that threesome, it's Knox, Kristaps, and Zion, that's a great return for Anthony Davis, even if you're buying.
The problem with that, with the Knicks, is that it's pretty stupid because you got to count on retaining Davis.
Yes, no, I agree. Well, the thought process.
In that situation, he goes to the Knicks. In that situation, to retain him is going to be very difficult.
The thought process from them would be that they would be more likely with Anthony Davis to maybe bring in a Kevin Durant or something like that.
What makes me nervous as a Celtics fan is that, like, LeBron has proved in the past that when he wants his team to get improved, you know, his GM will make a move and he will force the issue. And NBA ratings are down right now. Anthony Davis going to an LA or a New York would significantly boost ratings. So if something did happen this year, it would be good for the league as a whole. I hope that they wait, and I hope that something for Boston materializes.
I'm not even that sure how good LA will be. If they give their assets away, we don't know whether LeBron, we're assuming he's all set, but when you saw it, when all those guys go, and it's Anthony Davis and LeBron and Stevenson and Rondo and Beasley and JaVale McGee.
And I do think that attention needs to be paid to the Chris Haynes quote was, regarding team preferences, Boston is not a top target for Davis, sources said. There's a growing belief of uncertainty that Kyrie Irving will not re-sign with Boston, even though he vowed to do so at the beginning of the season. And even though I do think that it's more likely than not that we will have Kyrie Irving on the Celtics in the 2019-2020 season, I do think that it's more likely than it was in November that he leaves now than it was previously. But
just because the decision's becoming imminent. That's it.
Right. So I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers made a play now, and then the Celtics could be with Kyrie running to LA.
So to carry this into another player, that's really, I'm thinking, well, Danny Ainge. I mean, he's got a challenge here. It's awesome. He loves his job and everything. But what do you do with Rozier? Rozier right now is like, one train of thought is that you really need to get rid of him now because you're not going to get anything at the end of the season because he wants to be a starter and he's out of here.
Trade him in a pick for Nikola Vucevic.
But if you trade him and you're not sure about Kyrie, you're better off retaining him because he's the guy that becomes your starter. And even if you trade him, who's your backup?
I think the difference.
Oh, there's a lot of ramifications.
I think the difference was
Smart to the bench. I don't like that.
Smart would be starting.
But who's your backup point guard? Wanamaker?
Danny and Terry have a relationship where I think that they would maintain him on the roster. If we get to a point where we're nervous about Kyrie Irving, I think we would keep him there, and then we keep him, and even if his contract expires, when we realize that Kyrie's leaving, then we can offer him the most money and then we can retain him.
I think the Celtics, talent's not their issue, and the depth is amazing, and you saw it against. Yeah, so it's not. But they can't help the team, and one team that I see that makes sense for them is Orlando with Terrence Ross and Mo Bamba. I mean, I think Mo Bamba is so undervalued right now.
You could buy dirt cheap.
Myself, I think he's really undervalued. And Terrence Ross would be a nice, a 6'6" shooter. He's only about 28. I think he would. I think he would help that team. I think he'd be a piece that would help what's going on right now. Anyways, that's one of my trades that I say could potentially happen. Would be Rozier to Orlando for Ross and Bamba.
End up dealing with Orlando.
I do think that the deadline's going to be interesting because usually noise only really happens when there is a big piece, a big shoe to fall. When that drops, then the teams that are waiting and hanging in the in-between area, they're more likely to make a move because now other things are falling into place. Anthony Davis has stressed that it's not money, and obviously that this recent step forward is amplifying that. But he's also stressed that he cares about a winning culture, a strong organization, and the likelihood to be able to get multiple championships on the next team that he's on. So that maintains the Lakers and the Celtics, but maybe that also brings in teams like the Miami Heat or like the San Antonio Spurs. Would the Spurs not offer both Aldridge, DeRozan, and a first-round pick for Anthony Davis? Would the Miami Heat not average 4 first-round picks? They wouldn't offer that? What do you mean? Why would they not offer that?
Aldridge and DeRozan?
Yes, that's a no-brainer trade for the San Antonio Spurs. Why would the San Antonio Spurs not do that? That would be a no-brainer trade.
Well, the Lakers are in a position where really they've got to make it happen now. I don't think it's going to happen for them if they don't make it happen now.
The Lakers?
I don't think it is. So,
Yeah, I
so
agree.
right now, this is their window right now. So they got 10 days now to make this happen. Are they going to negotiate like crazy and pass on a guy like Marc Gasol or something that could potentially
exactly.
have happened for them that now doesn't happen because they're waiting out Anthony Davis? If I was the Lakers, I think I would contact New Orleans and say, who do you want? You can't have LeBron.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah,
do you
'cause that's
want?
not
I think that's what they need
What
to
do you
say.
want? You want the whole team
Overall,
except for LeBron?
it's just not a good
I'll bring
team.
guys up from the G League to play with them.
It's crazy how much prime time the Lakers have had lately, and they've just been borderline unwatchable. No defense at all, no clutch scoring, and no free throws even. It's just awful.
Well, I
They
think that
need serious help.
you throw the kitchen sink at it because he is that caliber player. Even if it means you're losing the equivalent of 6 first-round picks in terms of the players that you're trading and the picks themselves, I think you still do it. And I think that they would be willing to do it. I think that if it came down to the worst-case scenario, if their offer is to take back a Solomon Hill and deplete a certain aspect of their potential another max contract slot in the offseason, I still think that they would probably go for it, knowing that they could get off of those contracts in the future, knowing that they would be entering these playoffs with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, 2 of the top 4 players in the NBA. I think that it's worth it, knowing the culture of Los Angeles and the allure of that area for a potential free agent. I mean, obviously we've seen Paul George get swayed away because of the chemistry and because of Russell Westbrook's friendship and whatever happened in OKC, but high caliber players want to go to LA, and that exists, and that'll continue to exist, and maybe in the future they don't need to spend a full max offer on a Middleton or
I was just thinking,
Paul George is a top 5 MVP
you know what would be a
candidate too.
cool chain of events would be tomorrow we hear that Kristaps says, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And now Kristaps is on the table, and now all the assets are coming there, and it's just because you're starting to hear Kristaps mentioned you know, with the Celtics, with New Orleans, why wouldn't the Lakers be interested in Kristaps?
The lack of injury updates on him has made me nervous.
True.
Usually we get more updates. I'm not concerned that he won't be able to come back to full health. I'm just upset. I'm
But that
nervous
team's a
about.
mess.
Yes, they are a mess. They're the worst team in the league.
And Fizdale's, well, if we get there, but I mean,
So how about those other
may-
guys? What do
Who?
you see as good landing spots for the 2 Memphis guys, Conley and Gasol? Do you see any good homes for those two?
Yeah, I think Conley on one of the obvious ones is Indiana because of
Right.
Oladipo.
I do think that was more likely
the other
before
perfect
Oladipo.
match for him is San Antonio.
Okay.
He becomes Tony Parker.
Okay.
I think that is a match made in heaven.
Popovich would love him.
Conley, whatever they get to give, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure. But I'm thinking,
DeRozan
but really,
for Conley,
they
straight
got
up.
who?
DeRozan for Conley, straight up.
I don't know. Can they get him for Bertans and Mills?
They value DeRozan
Bertans is the best
much
three-point
more
shooter
than
in
you
the
do.
league. Hey, what team has is the only team with 4 guys and the leaders with 3 points? So the leaders is 30 guys. What team's the only team with 4?
I'm assuming it's the Spurs.
Yeah, San Antonio.
Well,
Because
it's
when,
the
when
role players.
we looked at that at the beginning of the year, and that doesn't include Rudy Gay, who's not a bad 3-point shooter.
Well, if you look at the identity of the team, it's a very modern team. It's just that the 2 players that are taking the most shots are taking the least efficient base
True,
shots. You know
true.
what I mean? The rest of the roster
True.
is very 3.
But it's not
and-
like
and
Bertans
layup
isn't
based.
taking any shots.
No, it's not. I think it's-
Gasol is going to Sacramento.
Yeah, that's
it's
the recent rumors
more
of
and
that.
more developed. Yeah,
Mark?
no, Mark.
Mark.
So he's heavily
One thing
vetted by
I
them
was
right now.
throwing with that as we're talking about that is that the professionalism that Conley and Gasol are showing
Oh, yeah.
is amazing.
Well-
I mean, after what you saw Conley's act with Fizdale, I'm starting to think Fizdale's a head case, and
he
Mark.
seems a little wonky.
Yeah, and Gasol, they're playing. They've played really well since they've been brought into the room and told, both you guys are on the table, and we're in a position where we're going to do this.
Imagine a diva or malcontent like Jimmy Butler playing in Memphis.
Yeah. So that it really makes the trade value high.
Yes.
For both those guys.
I think that I really, when you look at both of those cases, when you look at Anthony Davis and how he's handled this debacle, and when you look at Conley and Gasol, I think that they are displaying the correct way to handle it. And it's so funny in contrast to what we saw with Jimmy Butler in the beginning of the season, who handled it so immaturely and so headstrong. I'm the guy, you need to fall in line with what I want. In terms of other guys, they're being told tough information that isn't very good for them necessarily, even though it could be, and they're being upfront about it. And the management is making sure that they're addressing all potential issues with them first before anything could possibly get out, so everyone's on the same page and they know it's a business and they know how the things work. And Anthony Davis is on the player side, and he's doing the same thing. He's communicating with teammates. He's communicating with front office. He's making sure that everything is settled and nothing gets leaked out in an improper way. And you got to respect that from those guys.
Well, while you brought Jimmy Butler into it, one of the things recently that I've paid some attention to is how tied at the hip Kyrie and Butler are.
Yeah, they're friends.
And my question to you guys would be, would you prefer to bring Butler here to play with Kyrie, or send Kyrie there for Simmons and Redick, something like that?
Simmons and Redick.
It really sounds like those guys, their dream is for some reason is to play on the same team together, and they're both available. So it's like they're seeing this window where they can connect.
I think it's very obvious that Kyrie is a very social superstar in terms of his relationship with other social superstars.
True, good point.
And some of them are more
Even LeBron again now.
Right. Some of them are more under the radar, but I think it's commonly known that Anthony Davis and Kyrie are great friends.
Wow.
And some of them are not more obvious, like Jimmy Butler, and they
Yeah,
are also great
yeah.
friends. I think that eventually people will play together that they're good friends with, but sometimes it doesn't happen.
But
we never saw the
I know,
Banana
but
Boat guys
Kyrie
play
and Jimmy
together,
Butler
and they always
could actually decide where they want to go because they're
Played
both free
something
agents.
else
That's
together.
true. Yeah, we can switch it.
That was awesome. There's so much more to that too. We
Oh,
got
I
Dennis
mean,
Smith Jr. Enes Kanter.
He settled back. No one really cares about Enes.
The whole situation there. The Knicks
So
are
the
fine.
Los Angeles Lakers, this can be a little bit shorter because we did touch on it a tiny bit in terms of what they're doing. They've been
You
continued.
did create like 5 topics that are a whole show.
Yes,
in this
they,
one.
they,
It's
they-
awesome.
they continued to have. LeBron's absence really hurt them. Loss after loss for these guys.
But they're 4-6 in the last 10. Do you consider that bad?
Yeah, because the
you know,
way that they're
if they-
performing is weak, and their
Yeah.
4 wins are coming against not really that strong of opponents.
They
I
got
it's
crushed by
treading
Cleveland.
water.
Yes.
I think when I saw them get beat up by Cleveland, that's when I realized this team has no hope.
Right, and if they didn't beat the Bulls, what the topic is
Yeah.
mainly about, if they didn't beat the Bulls, I think that Luke Walton would have been fired already. And what we're hearing now, it's not from
crazy.
LeBron, but
Well,
it's from LeBron's camp,
don't
which is so
believe
unusual. I
that.
don't know what that means. But if you listen, Jackie,
It's
terrible.
not for LeBron. It's from LeBron's mother.
Jackie McMullen
And you can't be more credible than her.
and Brian Windhorst reported that the people around LeBron's camp have been hinting that they would like to move on from Luke Walton. Now, Luke Walton was also obviously not hired by Magic in Pelinka.
So who becomes the coach? Rondo?
So I don't know who they're coaching.
Who's
thought
LeBron
process is.
want?
Magic
He's
Johnson.
Ty Lue.
Magic Johnson reportedly has a coach in mind that is a current head coach in the NBA.
But I agree with
don't
you. It's
know
not
who
the
it would
coach
be.
in there. It's
No, it's the
I don't
players.
think.
It's they don't. They're
But
without LeBron.
here's the
they're
thing,
a
though.
lottery team.
I've seen a lot of these Lakers games have been on NBA TV, and Luke Walton 2 times in a matter of a week and a half drew up a final play, a last-second play in which they could have won the game, and it was throwing the ball to Kyle Kuzma in the far corner, one of the most vulnerable spots to throw the ball for a last-second shot. And one time it was a terrible contested fadeaway three-pointer from the corner, and the other time it was a turnover. And quite often, when you throw the ball into that small space, that small window,
True.
it is a turnover.
Yeah.
How do you not learn from your own coaching mistakes? He doesn't seem like he has the acumen. I think we gave him way too much
Yeah.
credit and we overrated him after the Warriors run.
True. That's a good point, too.
A lot of people were talking about how he was the coach of the year candidate that year when he was just filling
It's all
in
set up
for
him.
a superb team.
Yeah, all he had to do was move over a seat.
I don't think he really was ready.
Magic has recently gone down and has been talking to Luke in closed doors meetings, and apparently the emphasis of those meetings have been Luke's assistant staff, and maybe the people that he's appointing there are more based off of friend rather than reputation or actual knowledge of the game, which could be an issue. But at the end of the day, that kind of just seems to be a signal of something worse to come later down the line. If you're replacing a head coach's chosen assistants, usually that means eventually it's going to lead to that initial firing to begin with.
What I don't like about the direction of this conversation that we're having is that it shifts it off LeBron. I mean, here's LeBron leaking information that he wants to coach going again. I mean, it's a LeBron power
We
play
don't know.
again.
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Well,
We
come
don't know
on.
that it's
Of
LeBron.
course we know. LeBron's camp is releasing that he wants Walton gone. Jackie McMullen is a credible source.
Yeah, but they're not saying LeBron James. They're very obviously clearly saying it's not LeBron James.
Okay.
With Eric Spoelstra, with
Okay.
David Blatt, with other coaches in the past, it was LeBron. LeBron said, "I do think that the team would be better off if we moved in a different direction."
I think we'd
controls-
know.
We heard-
If
he's a
LeBron wanted
brilliant-
something out there, we'd know.
LeBron's a
We would
brilliant
know.
businessman. He manages his
would
brand to
know.
the max. He knows
We would
everything.
know. And I'm not denying that.
He also
maybe
doesn't let other people
The other
speak for
point-
him, though.
The other point I would make
Exactly.
is I don't see a path to the playoffs for the Lakers.
I see there's no, if LeBron,
I don't see a path to the
if
playoffs.
LeBron doesn't
for
come
him.
back in the next 7 games, we can start talking about that.
Even if, I mean, look at the teams that are in their way. I mean, Utah's playing real well. The Clips are playing okay. The Spurs are playing okay. Even with them, Dallas, New Orleans.
It's just the difference is LeBron James.
I don't.
I still think they
Yeah,
find a way when he
I
gets
don't think
back.
they're going to be playing as good as Utah and Los Angeles Clippers when
I
they
think
get
they'll
LeBron
absolutely
back.
be playing
I'm
as good
still
as the
not
Clippers. Clippers
sold
would
on
fall off.
Utah.
Huh?
I'm still not sold on Utah.
Well, you should be.
I think-
And you guys that are bad mouthing Donovan Mitchell,
He's been
that
playing
guy's
great.
playing like a superstar
No,
right
he's been
now.
playing
And,
fantastic.
and now that Rubio's come back, they've moved Rubio off the ball, and they've kept the ball with Mitchell, and that seems to be winning. Gobek's played
Donovan's
real
still
well.
not shooting as well as he was last year,
Utah-
and they end up with Jay Crowder forcing a three-pointer and trying to draw contact when he's not getting any sort of contact on a three-point
I'm not
shot.
down on Donovan
Utah
Mitchell.
is
They force
not.
a lot.
Utah is not at risk of missing the playoffs. They have played good enough where I do think that they're going to be more closer to the 5, 6, 7 seed, probably to the higher end of that tier than towards the fringe of not making the playoffs. The teams that do need to be worried are teams like the Clippers, who, when faced with injuries to players that otherwise are just a moderate player like a Gallinari, but because of his integral aspect of that team, with him out just a couple games,
Yeah.
they're floundering and they've been sputtering, and now they're in the 8th spot. And the Lakers are right behind them at the 9. Utah's at 7, but I think they're on the rise. I think that you need to pay attention to San Antonio, and you need to pay attention to the Clippers. And if I had to bet any money, I would bet that the Lakers make it over one of those two. And if I had to pick, it would be the Clippers. I think the Clippers fall out of the playoffs. I think the Lakers are in, and I think that the San Antonio and LA will be vying for who has the 7 or the 8 spot.
It's not an easy path, and they're looking at the 8th spot.
They need LeBron to come back as soon as possible.
The NBA needs LeBron.
He
the
practiced
sooner-
yesterday.
Yeah, he practiced. He's been doing shoot-arounds. The sooner he comes back, the more likely that they make the
Where were you
playoffs.
going with this now?
So,
Top 20. I was wondering where you were going with
We're
this.
doing top 20 of 1993.
Are we having a GOAT conversation again?
1991. No, I just wanted to, next week, maybe we're going to do top 20 of players of the second three-peat.
Okay.
I just want to get a barometer comparatively of the level of play.
Yes,
in
you
the
are
league.
going to the GOAT.
No, maybe down the line. I want it to eventually get there. I want it to eventually get there. I want to continue to just talk about it. So
Okay.
I think that it's interesting to discuss. I think that there's a very clear top 8 players, and I think that Michael Jordan is obviously number 1, and then after that, there's 4 guys that I wouldn't be mad at you for any order for where you put them. I decided to put them at number 2. I got Barkley 2. Malone 3, Robinson 4, and Ewing 5. That's how I see those next thing. What is your top 5 guys? And then we can go to the rest of the
Well,
list.
the top 5 is pretty definitive, but you've also got Bernard King and Joe Dumars. I think James Worthy. And I don't know.
Olajuwon?
I don't know who's at the end of Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal.
Dumars he was getting to a point where he just kind of became the premier player because Isaiah was on the
we
decline.
are going to take in
but
whether the guys are at the end of their careers.
It's
not.
91.
So the big 3 from the Celtics don't count.
No, Larry Bird is number 15 on my list.
Okay,
Because he played 2 seasons out of these 3 years where he was still all-star player, where he was averaging
Scottie Pippen?
7 and 7. Scottie Pippen is my number 8 player.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman is my number
Reggie Miller.
18 player. Reggie
Clyde
Miller did not
Drexler?
make my top thing. Drexler is my number 13.
John Stockton.
Stockton's 10.
I mean, I'm throwing a lot of players out here.
You're doing good. I'm telling you where they land.
James Worthy,
James Worthy does not make my top 20.
Dominique Wilkins.
Dominique Wilkins is number 9. Dominique Wilkins averaged over
Isaiah
28,
Thomas?
averaged over 28 points. Isaiah Thomas
Yeah.
is not in my top 20.
How's Shaq?
Shaq is number 7. Shaq only played 1 year in this stretch. It was his rookie year. He averaged 25 and 13 with 4 blocks a game.
Tim Hardaway.
Tim Hardaway he's the best player on that Run TMC team in this stretch. Him and Chris Mullin are both right there. I had them 11 and 12 respectively.
Well, but you just said that you only got like 4 or 5 guys or 8 guys.
No, I was just saying. So in terms of tiers,
I mean, I know where this argument's going.
I'm just tiering the system. I'm tiering the system. So Michael Jordan is a tier 1, and it's just him. And then my next tier is a tier 2, and it's 4 guys, and it's Barkley, Malone, Robinson, and Ewing. And then the next tier I have 3 guys, and it's Hakeem, Shaq, and Pippen. And then after that, it's a huge tier that goes all the way down to 13. So it's Dominique, Stockton, Hardaway, Mullen, Drexler. And
I don't
then after
consider that a huge drop. Those guys are great players.
yeah, they were great players in their own rights. But then it goes
in their own rights.
Yeah, and then it's another big drop after that. When the 14th best player in the league, I had Kevin Johnson, and then
Yep.
it's Larry Bird, and then I had Magic Johnson, then I had Sean Kemp, and then I had Dennis Rodman. And I had
Larry Johnson?
Mark Price, and Larry Johnson was 20. And that's where I think the
That was
disparity.
Shrimp's not a bad player.
That was Shrimp, he's like 32. But I think that the point is that I think that the top line talent is elite. But I think that when you start getting to 14, 15, when you have top 20 players in the league that are players that only played 1 year in that stretch, and they're kind of getting amnestied in because they're all-time great players, even though that they were hampered by a back injury or had to leave the game because of an illness, and just because they maybe carried a team to a playoff berth, they kind of get that. These players were not the same players that they were in the prime.
Like
And
who?
these- like Larry and like
yeah,
Magic.
but we're not really. I'm not including them. I'm not including Larry.
I think what you're trying to say is that the top level of the top tier talent is comparable to this
Yes,
era.
it is.
But the depth of talent today may be better than it was back then.
So,
and I agree with that. These are my formative years of watching basketball.
Right, I did a lot of time this past couple of weeks watching these games, and people complain now that it's more of a super team-based era, and I think that it's just that there's more good players now, so it's more likely that you're going to have more good players on the same team. But it's funny when you go back and you look at these teams, in the top 20, there's like 12 teams represented. In the top 20 now, there's like 15, 14
So what I have
teams
trouble
represented.
separating myself from, is I can't remove myself from the fact that I think what you're doing is comparing LeBron and Michael Jordan. I think that's what you're really doing. I think that's your bottom line.
I'm
and
comparing
I think,
errors.
and I think you got a real flaw. And I've told you before. And your Uncle Dan, my brother, agrees with me. Obviously, we're dinosaurs from the same era. That you cannot be comparing LeBron in this area and Michael Jordan in that era. That it's impossible. You got to take LeBron back to there the same way you would have to take Michael Jordan forward.
Right.
And if you took LeBron back, he's got no AAU ball. He's got no coming out of high school. He's not working out the same way. It's a different era. It's a different way of preparing yourself as a player, and you can't do that.
You can't take a player out of what made him the player and then say, how would he do? That's not what it works.
That's
not-
what you're doing.
No, it's not. I'm taking LeBron
LeBron
James.
would be a great player in that era, and he's a great player in this era. Patrick Ewing's a great player in that era. He's a great player in this era.
my
Shaq,
difference is-
Dennis Rodman. They're great players then. They're great players now because when they're in this era, they adapt. They go through the AAU. They go through a workout. They do everything that today's players are doing, and they become just as good as today's player. And maybe Kevin Johnson, Tim Hardaway, they would become just as good as today's players
Right.
if they were in this era.
Right, but they didn't do that. So they weren't that good. So you're saying that if they played in this era that
That's
the players
what I
did, they
find
would be
flawed.
good as these players. But
That's
it
what I
doesn't make
find
any
flawed.
sense.
Sure it does.
My point of view is that the players that are the 15, 14,
But LeBron,
16,
if you put him back,
I'm not
he didn't
talking
do
about
any of
LeBron.
that either.
I'm not talking about LeBron.
Well, you're talking about this era. You take this era, your great players today, you
Yes.
put them back, they're not as good either if you put them back.
No, because you got to take the player for what we
You're
know the
taking
player
them out
as.
of context.
No,
You're
I'm not.
taking
You gotta-
1991 and 2019.
No, you got to take the player for what you know the player as. I'm not taking Klay Thompson
I'm
hypothetically
considering
what
the
he was when he was
environment.
raised.
The environment that they're in is
That's
vital.
That's unfair to judge a player based off of the environment.
Of course, I don't believe that at all. I don't,
confused
and I know
as
it's
to the
because I'm
I'm talking.
the age that I am and what I'm looking at, but I don't believe that at all. I think
Okay.
the environment's got
That's-
everything to do with
That's
it.
fine. I'm saying.
I'll go
for-
back to Bill Russell's rate, and I'll say there's 15, 20 guys there that are just as good and would move, and you do not agree
Right,
with
that's
me. You don't
blasphemous.
agree with Bob Pettit. You don't agree with Clyde Lavelle. You don't agree with that those guys. They would be great players today, and if they were in the same environment today, they would be great players.
Right, but that's not the point. The point is.
That's my point.
The point
These
is.
sort of conversations are never going to work with the two of you.
Right. So
No, and I'd be interested in what Sloan
what
thinks. I would be interested
What
in what he
I
thinks.
wanted to get under a microscope was the difference between the 14 to 20 today, which is like the Klay Thompson, the Ben Simmons, the Jimmy Butlers, the Karl Anthony Towns, the Chris Paul, Oladipo, these guys versus the Sean Kemp, the Magic Johnson, the Kevin Johnson. I want to see how those
So
guys compare.
I can't get myself away from saying what you're doing is you're saying the environment today creates better players. I'll agree with that. Today's environment.
Wait, so the players are
today's
better. So the
environment,
players are better.
because of the environment, because it's
they're better.
2018.
But they're better.
Because it's
I think there's-
2018.
Who cares?
Not because they're
Who
better
cares?
players.
There's a
Who cares?
wider array of
You
good
can't
players
take-
today than there was then. But as far as greatness, I think the top 4 or 5 tiers are quite similar.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean,
4 or 5 tiers? You mean 4 or 5 players or 4 or 5 tiers?
The
or 5
tiers of
4 or 5
players are
tiers.
quite
I mean, my
similar.
4 or 5 tiers.
20 players, the top
No.
20 and the top 20.
But if you're
I'm
going
saying
down to
13.
like tier 7, 8, 9, I think the depth of talent and the breadth of talent today is probably superior to
But
back
don't
then.
you agree that you can't look at the Celtics? You can make a case the way you're talking that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are better than Detlef Schrempf and those guys, and they haven't had anywhere near the career that those guys have had, and they're not.
But I think that you could make a case that they are better at basketball than Detlef Schrempf was at basketball.
Because of the environment.
But who the heck cares?
I care.
That's like
because that's
no,
what's
no, no,
done
Mike,
it.
Mike, that's
what's
like saying
done it.
LeBron James is better at basketball than Scottie Pippen because he's stronger. But that's not fair because he had more time to train and he had put in more
I'm
time
not just
working.
saying it. I'm
That's
saying,
the environment
if
he's
you really,
in.
I
That's
said,
not fair.
and Dan will say, put LeBron back in 1991.
Yes,
I
put LeBron in a teleporter, time travel.
Yes,
he gets in the
that's
machine,
the only
he walks
way you
in,
can compare players.
and that's how
'Cause
I
that's
compare
what
players.
That's what you're doing with 1991 to 2018.
and that's the best way to compare players.
So put LeBron back in 1991 and compare how he would have been in 1991.
That is what I try to
He wouldn't
do.
be the same player as he is today.
He would because he is
No, he
him.
wouldn't.
He's him. He's him.
No, he wouldn't.
I think older
That's
guys
that's
are
where you're
always
wrong.
gonna
That's where
defend
you're
the
flawed, Shay. That's where
older
you're flawed.
players.
No, it doesn't
He
make
wouldn't
any
be the
sense.
same player back then any more than Michael Jordan wouldn't be a different player today.
How are you going to say a player wouldn't be himself? We
What?
can
The
transition.
The environment
Why is Kenyon Martin
changes
in front of me
completely.
anyway?
Kevin Martin. That's not the point. You're taking too many factors into comparisons. You need to be as upfront.
I think it's a good
you need to-
argument.
No, you
I
need
think
to
it's a
be-
good debate.
You need to be as upfront and remove as many ifs and hypotheticals from a comparison.
All right,
as
let's
possible.
talk about
thought
the
that was going to be a
Warriors.
short discussion, but
So-
guys are
I
giving me a
enjoy that
headache.
discussion. I do.
The Golden State Warriors are back, striking fear in people's hearts after a very fantastic game versus the Boston Celtics on Saturday night. I believe there was
Were you disappointed?
25 lead changes. I was disappointed overall, although I thought it was a good fight. It was a good game. I thought that the Celtics played well up to the point where there was maybe 3 or 4 mistakes that could have gone our way, in which we would have resulted
Should we do
in
Warriors
a
and
victory.
Celtics at the same time here?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the game more so.
Yes.
Talk about the game. I think that DeMarcus Cousins brings a new breath to this team that they previously obviously didn't have. And you could see that the Celtics were used to playing the same defense that they have been playing in the past 4 years when we played the Golden State Warriors. We were the only team in the NBA up until the loss that had at least a 500 record against this team since the start of their championship run. And it's because we defend them very well. We throw them lots of different looks. We switch everything. And we are trained to focus on the shooters off ball. And even though we did struggle on that, and there was some sloppiness in switching from between Jalen and Terry when the two of them were on the court together, I noticed most.
We picked some
most
bad
definitely.
matchups defensively.
But what Boogie makes a difference is formerly the 5-man is one that gets ignored. And in the first half, the Celtics were playing that way. And DeMarcus Cousins was getting open jump shot after open jump shot. And the Celtics were having a roadblock in adapting to him. And I find myself when I look at, even though it's only been a very small sample of games for the Warriors, I find that other teams that aren't in the same universe in terms of being able to defend this Golden State Warriors are struggling with the same thing that the Celtics did tenfold.
Look at what the Wizards did. They played Sam Decker on them.
Exactly. So Golden State's new wrinkle, the new fold of their dynamicism with DeMarcus Cousins just brings them to a whole nother ceiling because of his offensive skills. I mean, we think
Amazing
of
offensive
him. We
skills.
think of him as a dominant low post scorer, but he's so much more than that. He's one of the best screen setters in the league.
Good high
he's one of the
post passer.
best passing bigs in the league, and he's
Good range.
And he's really upped his effort on the defensive end since he's come back.
yes.
Defensively, his effort has been much higher, and his
don't use much.
His affinity to run the floor has also increased a lot.
He did run the floor twice. I'll give you that. I saw him get out on a fast break, and I saw him hustle back defensively, but I'm not seeing his run as something that you can be positive about. I think it's amazing he's come back from the Achilles like he has. When you look at where Gordon Hayward is,
Still doesn't
blah,
have
blah,
his
blah.
explosiveness, but he's there.
I think it's one thing you said right from the beginning was that they now have. I think they're very used to playing without a center, and that's what makes Boogie so effective. Is it doesn't matter that he doesn't run up the court on
Right,
offense.
no,
It doesn't matter that they're used to not having a center anyways. When's the last time you see multiple efforts from Boogie Cousins?
I mean, he showed several.
I don't know. I'm not seeing
stretches.
multiple efforts. I'm pretty impressed with him. I think it's a low sample right now, the 4, but he brings a lot to the table. That's for darn sure. If he would only run all the time, Shane, why doesn't he run all the time? Why does he walk when you see that run on the fast break when he got out, when you see that sprint back on defense? If he's only going to be playing 20 minutes a game, why doesn't he run?
I still
It's
think
because mentally he doesn't play the game that way.
He's a smooth sailor.
What do you think?
I still think that he's getting back into it in terms of his
But he never
stamina.
ran.
And-
He
Yeah,
never-
but if you look
He
at
knows he
what-
can't keep up with Curry and
Yes,
Thompson and all
Yeah, but you
these-
saw
these
him
are
run a couple
some of the
times.
fittest
You
guys
saw
in the
that
league.
fast break I'm
Yes,
talking
but I'm
about.
saying if
you
you
saw
watch-
that defensive transition.
If you watch these 4 games
be
versus,
dynamite if he
versus
did
his
that.
healthiest games, of his prime games, of his best games with the Sacramento Kings, he is putting more effort in than he put in those games. He's trying
Wow,
harder
that's
at all
sad.
times.
And I agree with you.
And he
I
is,
agree with
and
you.
It is
He's
sad,
got a
and
perfect.
That's what frustrated
He's
people
got a beautiful
previously.
situation, and the situation he's in, it's not. He can't play prima donna the same way with these guys. He can't, because with Curry and Durant and even Draymond's going to be. He's got a level that he's got a standard of play that he has to reach that's different in Sacramento and New Orleans, and you're seeing that. I think it's amazing. The team is incredible, but I don't think they're incredible in any way because of Boogie. I think they're incredible because Curry's back, and Draymond is. 2 weeks ago, I said he's losing something. I think he's playing well again, myself, and I think it works on that team. I'll give you a stat on that I think is very relieving, very revealing of the team, and that is the number of passes in the game. 327 for Golden State, 282 for the Celtics. That's virtually 50 passes more. For a team that's dominated by their one-on-one athletic scoring ability, they are wonderful at moving that ball. They're clean when they move it. They're very efficient, and it's happening. They have a beautiful way of moving the ball for teams for a team that's got such one-on-one ability.
They also
and the Celtics
shot
don't
about
have that.
50% from like contested shots.
Yes.
Whereas Boston
11 for 34.
Yeah, it was awful.
30%, and that's got a lot to say with
that's a huge disparity.
And when you got guys like Draymond Green leads the league in contested shots and in deflections, and he leads the team in steals, rebounds, and assists. But that's reflected in that 11 for 34. That you've got guys that, as much as they tried to play off Boogie and say his weakness is that he's not going to get out on shooters, I'm not sure that really came to play very much.
I just think you're going to run into problems if you're Boston and you have the mentality that you're going to try and outshoot Golden State, especially as a team that struggles with rebounding the ball. Boston can't get into a shootout.
Well, in the second,
they're never going to win.
match shot for shot.
Well, in the second half, we did a fantastic job of sticking with Steph with his off-ball movement because I think it was clearly an emphasis at halftime because in the first half, we saw that flurry.
We left him open.
We saw in that flurry in the second quarter where he had 5 straight threes.
Flurry.
And it was mostly with Jalen and Terry on the floor, and they were having miscommunications in terms of the switch everything roles that they were supposed to have. But you could see that was tightened up.
Smart to the job
and we limited his shot attempts. Never mind his shooting percentage. We limited his shot attempts in the second half, and that happened with Clay as well. As long as we want as an opponent to the Golden State Warriors, you want the movement to halt, and you want Kevin Durant because he's the last option, even though he's the best last option that has ever existed.
He's damn good.
You want him to take a contested 19 fadeaway. You know what I mean? And we were contesting those, and Marcus Morris did a great job defending him. And
good point.
And Al Horford did a great job defending
what happened?
him. And Al Horford did get sloppy
What
with
happened?
the fouls.
Who came in for Morris and played Durant? Hayward. And it was bad.
Well, Hayward's looked. That was one of his
Well,
worst
I
games. That was one of his worst
understand
games.
that. I'm a Hayward guy, and I'll continue to be a Hayward guy.
See somebody in the
but
Warriors.
that was a horrible
Was it
matchup.
John Goodman? Somebody in the Warriors locker room said that Hayward is
Yes.
a liability on
No,
both
and
sides.
Probably
of the
Durant.
floor.
Probably Durant.
And
He is terrible.
it could
He's,
be.
He looked
he's
bad that
not
day. He looked
good
great
right
that
You
now.
know, I'm going to say this. I'm going to stick with Gordon Hayward all the way to the end. I am not deserting that guy no matter what.
I think
And
his minutes should be trimmed down.
Our team is not. There's no problem with the talent level of this team, and there's no problem with the depth
I think
of
he
this
actually
team.
brings down the morale of the rest of the team. He's so
No,
bad.
No, I disagree with that. I do
He's
think that
not been good.
He's been terrible.
I know,
He's been
but-
terrible, and the only way that he's going to get better is by playing the
Look,
minutes that he's playing now.
It's a fact. We're not going away. Gordon Hayward is not coming out. He's not going to not play. We know that. Brad Stevens is going to play Hayward. We almost owe it to him, and too bad.
He
but
might
that's
just
the
not be that
fact.
good
I understand,
anymore.
and I'm thinking the same way as you, Sloan. I'm thinking when I saw Hayward playing Durant, I said, man, you know who's going in next time? Semi Ojeleye is going in there, and Gordon Hayward's sitting, and Semi Ojeleye is going in there to play Durant because I can't match Hayward up in Durant. But that's not Stevens' mindset.
It hurts
That's
me
not
to
the
watch
Celtics
it
mindset.
because
And I accept it.
He's such a good guy and he's got such a good heart
Yep.
and his work ethic is second to none. But he's just not good.
So what
I
do you
see
do?
it.
What would you do?
I cut his minutes down.
I think you.
Wow.
I think you need to give him more
No,
time.
I think it's devastating
He's
to
coming.
do that.
He's coming off a devastating injury.
Yes,
he's struggling to find
Good,
his
give him
footing.
more time.
He just had his third baby. I just think that he's got a lot of stuff going on, and I understand.
And the worst of it is that he's not playing well.
We're getting to a point in the season where the
We are.
criticism is deserved. It is deserved,
But it's not gonna change.
But we need to be patient. We need to remain hopeful and not get too
We got to
angered.
accept that we've got enough talent and that we've got enough depth with Hayward being
You know
the
who
way
else
he
has
is.
talent? The rest of the Eastern Conference. We don't want to end up a 5 seed going into the
That's
playoffs.
not- we don't need to worry
We're
about
now 5-2 versus
don't need to worry about
Toronto, Philadelphia, and Indiana's in trouble, obviously, without Oladipo.
I think we have a very good shot of being the 3 seed.
I think and then we play real competitive with Golden State. So I'm
I'm
not
worried
too
about
worried.
the chemistry of this team
I
long term.
I think there's a problem with ball. I don't think that team moves the ball well. I think you have to say at this point now, ball movement is not one of their strengths. You keep saying, oh, when we move the ball, we're great. Well, the fact is that we don't move the ball often enough. And I've given you passing the per 100 passes when Kyrie's, and I love Kyrie's phenomenal, but it's not Brad ball by definition right now. And I don't think it's going to be Brad ball. So we've got to learn to win in a way that I'm wondering behind the scenes whether Brad is really comfortable with what he's seeing out there in terms of what his vision is as
Well,
a
I
coach.
think this has been a coaching failure on Brad's part this
No,
year.
I don't.
I don't think he's had
I
a
don't.
good year.
Brad's
So,
whatchamacallit?
you know who came to surface finally this week was Tommy, and Tommy's had some problems, and at 84 years old, and they think they've got to the root of what his problems are. He's getting severely fatigued, wasn't able to walk from the elevator to the press room without sitting down. They tracked it to sleep apnea, and they've got him with oxygen at night, and he's coming back for it. But let me read you his quote.
That's
Let
a
me
big
Tommy's
man.
quote. So Tommy's quote on, and I think this is legitimate. He said, and I think we can think of it almost the same way, is that last year, he told Jaylen Brown this year, he said, last year's team, every Celtic that I've ever known would have loved to suit up for that team last year. You were selfless, you were competitive, you fought to the bitter end. And now he's looking and he's saying, this year's team is working to regain last year's magic. I think that's really true, is that they're trying to regain what they had last year. And I don't know how they do that. And then he went to give Kyrie tremendous accolades, saying that he reminds him of Kuzi and that he's really good. This is Tommy's brilliant. He's really good at the psychology of the game and the psychology of winning. That Kyrie is awesome. He's top of the line at it. But I think that's really true, that last year's team, every Celtic in history would have been proud to play on that team. And now the team they're looking at a team that's lost the magic that they saw in last year's team.
They need like a James Posey or something. I'm thinking like a.
That's a good point. Eddie House.
They need
Eddie
like
House is what they need.
Kenneth Fareed or
Eddie House.
maybe a Torian Prince. Somebody to
Terrence Ross.
help
I'm saying,
the
you know,
chemistry a little bit.
But you're not going to find Eddie House, and you're not going to find James Posey, and you're not going to find Brown. What was his name? Brown. The 3 guys they brought onto that team that really made a difference. And you're right. But I don't expect changes because, again, talent's not an issue and depth's not an issue. They've got to deal with what they got. They're competitive with the 3 teams that are ahead of them. They're more than competitive, 5-2, and they're competitive with Golden State. We've got to accept that's what it is.
I do think that because of maybe the disparity in terms of what the consensus energy is this year in terms of positivity versus what it was last year, that compiled with Hayward's lack of a return to prominence, and maybe all that convoluted with a recent loss to an opponent we would hope we would be able to beat, I think that maybe the fan base in general is being a little bit more pessimistic than necessary. I think that
Well,
I think
in
we'd be
reality,
10.
we just lost to the Golden State Warriors, who are by far the greatest team in the league and maybe the greatest team of all time, and we lost them by, 3-4 points?
And I think
all you
maybe
needed
we
was-
would have won if he wasn't playing the game. That's what I'm saying.
That what?
We could have won
Yes,
if
we
Hayward
could've-
wasn't
we
playing.
could have won if Marcus Smart didn't slip on the floor when he crashed into the rebound.
But to
We
be
could've-
positive, that's true, and that happened. But I think you also have got to look at the positive end, is that we would have won if Klay Thompson didn't play such good defense on Kyrie. We wouldn't have played if they didn't have Livingston coming off the bench to be able to play Kyrie. Kyrie had a much harder time with his shot than he had against any other team, and that made a big difference. So,
He had
so
two-
Golden State's strength trumped Kyrie, even though Kyrie was great. They made it harder for him.
He had 2 costly turnovers in the final
And
4
Boogie got one.
minutes. Yeah, and it was. I thought that.
And
I think
Al
that
Horford
And
had
Steph should have been called for a travel at the end of that
Yeah,
game.
but I always
was
saw
so
nobody saw it
ticky-tacky.
when it
It was so
happened. I know
ticky-tacky.
that's a
I-
2-minute rule.
I would have been so
showing that
pissed
up.
if I was a
I
Warriors
didn't see
fan
it.
and they called that.
And I don't blame Smart. He was there to block out, and he lost his balance going
He
forward.
slipped.
and
He
it
obviously
showed.
slipped. He slipped. He went
Yeah.
too far, but it's fine. I do think that you are underrating the Boogie's defensive energy. I think that him on switches.
I'm willing to take a look.
how he
It's only 4 games, small sample.
How he defended,
I want to see him run. That's
how
all.
he defended Kyrie and Al on those pick and pops. He did great.
He-
His ability to
better
switch.
than I thought he would. He
his
got
ability
off better on the shooters.
And it pains me to say it, but he contains Jalen very well on switches. Jalen was struggling to get to the hoop
I'll
and turn the
I'll
corner
continue to
on
take
them.
a look at
And
it.
I thought that he was very, very impressive. He had active hands. He was moving quickly with his feet side to
Ooh.
side.
Not defensively.
Defensively, he was. I'm saying go back
For
and watch
Boogie.
it.
And again, you said
Boogie.
for Boogie.
Yes.
Better than he did in Sacramento.
Yes.
But that's not a lot, Shay. But I want to see him run. I saw him run. I want to see him run some more. Run some more.
So I'll tell you what I was happy with. Al Horford had
A great game.
phenomenal game.
Great game.
He looked
Played a lot of
awesome.
minutes. Kyrie
I
played a
think
lot
he
of
looked
minutes.
better than he's looked all
Played the
year.
whole fourth quarter, right?
Yeah,
he had 2 turnovers
he's
in the
becoming
fourth
like
quarter.
Rondo. He really gets up for these big marquee games.
That's what he does. He was preserving himself.
I don't mind at this point Marcus Smart shooting. It's not bothering me.
He's
I think
proving
the good
to be
shots-
okay at it, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean,
He's
he
taking
missed the
better
key
shots.
shot.
Yeah,
Marcus
you're right.
Morris
That's
missed the
what it
key
is.
shot. He was square on it.
He still has his heat checks.
I'm
from
leaning
time
more
to
in
time.
Sloan's direction, although it's because Hayward hasn't surfaced. But Sloan pointed out a number of shows ago that the team really doesn't have an answer for the second scorer with Kyrie, and that it looks like Tatum started the second half like he would, but we really don't have that second answer, and it should have been. I was thinking that the combination of Rozier, Hayward, and Brown off the bench would be enough, but in a game like that game, Rozier and Hayward were certainly not enough off the bench.
Tatum-
One of
has failed to be
one of
consistent
my
enough for the full
issues
game.
with Brad this year is when you see like the tough losses, like against the Warriors. The third quarter has been awful. Like they've come out of the gate in the second half, very lackadaisical and sometimes disorganized, and I think that's a coaching
I don't think
issue.
that's fair.
Okay.
I don't think that's, I think
Look
lackadaisical.
at all their tough losses.
Yeah.
They have so many turnovers out of the gate in the third quarters, and I think whatever's going on in that locker room at halftime is not good
I
enough.
trust it.
Are you nervous about Marcus Morris?
That he's missing shots right now.
Well, he's been falling off in general.
He had 2 good games. He had 3 bad ones. He had 2 good ones, and then now he's had another bad one. He's been the best rebounder on the team He has. I mean, he's averaged 8.5 rebounds a game during that stretch. You said he's down to 42%.
I think he's
shooting
forcing
threes.
some shots.
They need
he's
him.
trying to
He's
he's
getting
trying to
back
keep
to
up
ISO
this.
move.
Do you
I think
put-
he's trying to keep up this all-star thought. He's
I
not
think
going to
he's
be an
doing what
all-star.
he always does. I think
Once
he's doing what-
once he knows he's not going to the all-star
playing-
game, maybe he'll chill out a little bit.
He may get in as a 3-point shooter. It looks like Tatum's the fourth vote, or maybe Tatum will go.
Can we get Dirk in the three-point contest?
He is
That'd be
in
He
fun.
is. Dirk
Oh, he
is.
is? Okay, that's good.
I don't know why you want that. He's
I'm
gonna miss
not.
so many
I'm not
shots.
Because I
nervous.
love Dirk.
I
He's
guess
gonna
I'm
make it all the
nervous
way
that
around.
I just
Morris
want him
becomes
there.
our second option. I don't. I think that's a burden that's really tough on him. But one thing that I don't like about his game is that he doesn't finish close to the hoop. He'll get rebounds, he'll get things down there, but he constantly, for a guy that's that big and that strong, he doesn't cash in under the basket. But I think he's got his shot, and I think his role is solid. I am a little nervous in general of what comes after Kyrie.
Well, I'm seeing
Yeah.
him miss a lot of the shots that he made that were high-quality shots earlier in the season, and because of those misses, he was reverting to his former frustrating ways of deep isolation.
not fair.
That's what I've been seeing in the
not
past
fair.
7 games.
Well, I've been saying all year, I love Marcus Morris, and I don't know where we would be at this point without his first half efforts, but
course,
I
he's
don't
fantastic.
think that the Celtics are going to go anywhere with him as the number 2 scorer.
and that's-
It's just not going to happen.
No, and I don't. Again, the problem on that team is not talent and it's not depth. As a fan, what am I nervous about? I'm nervous about tonight's game with the Nets. I mean, the Nets
No
last
Kyrie.
time. Kyrie's not playing?
No Kyrie.
The last time we played the Nets, we were behind by 27 points last time we played them. This is what's going to
And
show.
the Nets have won about 8 straight.
And they
I think.
have. But
Nets
I
have the
mean,
best record in the league.
realistically,
D'Angelo
and
Russell
now
should
they've
be
lost
All-Star.
Spencer Dinwiddie, but realistically, we should beat that team tonight without any lapses or lulls. We should have a 48 where we beat that team. It's really important for us to play well and beat that team.
Well, we lost
And
to
as
them
a
last
fan,
time, so
yeah,
we'll
that's-
probably
we were
bounce
down by
back.
27. That's what we haven't seen
didn't
as a
have Kyrie in
change
that
on this
game either,
team.
right?
And that's what we're waiting for. is
Should be
to see-
interesting. All right, we got a couple minutes. Let's close it out with some draft board talk. I think it's obvious that we got Zion on the top. Has your board changed at all in terms of those other guys? My tiers are one, Zion by himself. In the second tier, I have RJ and Ja Morant. And
Ja, we didn't talk about point guards.
and
We said
then-
there's no point guards. Now there's a
well,
couple.
he's risen. He's risen
has,
out of
he has.
nowhere.
He's not the only one.
Maurice Day's been good. And then my next tier, and this is where it gets real murky for me. I still have Reddish up there because I trust him. And then I got a new guy up here, Texas Tech swing, Jarrett Culver. I've loved what I've seen from him. He's an incredible defender. He's a sophomore player who was a defensive specialist his freshman year, who had a wonky Lonzo shot, but he made it at a good clip. This year he came in, he's changed his form completely. He has a beautiful stroke now, and he's continued to shoot at a high level. He looks like he's going to be a great 3 and D small forward. And then I kept Nasir Little, even though he continues to be struggle to get heavy minutes. He has had one really, really good game. And then the rest of my guys are really unusual. I threw DeAndre Hunter in my top 10. And then I got both Gonzaga guys. I got Brandon Clark and Rui Hachimura. And then I threw him in there with Kevin Porter Jr., who just had an injury, and I think he's back now.
Got to watch the Virginia Duke game, which hopefully you guys did too. Zion continues to be amazing, but I'll raise a little. I did with Doncic, and I'm probably wrong. But with Zion, is he a freak like LeBron, Giannis, Joel?
Yes.
I'm saying no.
Yes.
I think so.
I'm saying at 6. I don't think he is.
He's current Blake Griffin.
I don't think he is.
He's current Blake Griffin with.
He's a poor man's Blake Griffin.
With Draymond's energy and Derrick Rose's athleticism. That's what he is.
That throwdown in that Virginia game was incredible.
Well,
I mean,
he's got some amazing skills, but
he's a transformative star that, like, he's the kind of guy that, like people that don't even watch basketball will stop and go,
but you're
oh my
looking
God.
at, the power is awesome. I'm wondering where that power is neutralized. Like, he did one thing in the UVA game that I've never seen a college player do, and that's being played by me, played by Shea, like he's right to me, up near the foul line, and then walking that player down one step at a time. An inbounds play. You're making the inbounds pass. Walked him all the way down where that guy could not stop him from taking one step after the next. Could not stop him from just walking. No charge or nothing. Just walked till he was in front of the hoop, took a pass and laid it in. That's an amazing strength.
Marcus
and power.
Smart would draw his charge.
I don't know how he would have. I wonder. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if that power and strength would be neutralized in the pro game.
He's an action hero. That's all the time we got, though.
It is,
one guy you like. Just name only. One guy you like.
Dennis Garland.
Darius Garland.
Right,
I was just going to say
Shout
that.
out Darius Garland. Thanks for joining us in the Wheelhouse.
Go
Till
Pats.
next time. Go Patriots.
The wheel is turning and can't slow